Okay, guys. So happy Monday. Hope you're doing all right. What we're going to do today is we're going to go back and look at some of these area formulas. But what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards. Okay, so this is why I ask you guys to write the formulas out, is because normally you guys would just fill in what you know over here, maybe use some trig or something to find a missing segment length to get area. But what's going to happen this time is we're going to be given area. Let's say the area of this trapezoid is, say, 1/2. And of these three remaining variables, we're only going to be given two of them. So let's say we're given the two bases. Well, that's easy, right? If we're given those, we'll just do 12 plus 18, divide by 2, divide both sides by that number, and h is isolated. But the example we're going to look at that's going to be particularly interesting, the one that I want you to pay special attention to, is what if we're given, say, only one of those base lengths, and let's say the height's 10 or something. Like, how would we solve for this missing part? And that's what I want you to pay attention to today. Just like if on the area of a rhombus or a kite, we'll have area equals 1/2 times the two diagonals. What happens if, instead of missing the area and just trying to calculate area, what if we were given the area and we're trying to figure out, say, a missing diagonal? So that's what we're working on today. I want to learn by example. There's no new formulas. Let's take a look at what we do for height. So for this one, we're missing the height of this trapezoid, but we know the area of a trapezoid is going to be 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times h. And so by writing out that formula, I'm going to fill in the things that I know. Well, I know that the area is 150. So I'm going to put 150 over here. That's going to equal 1/2. Well, the first base is 12. The second base is 18. And that's times height. Now, one tip that I'll give you, because 1/2 occurs a lot, is if you don't like dealing with that fraction, or especially when we're trying to solve for one of the bases in the next problem, obviously 1/2 times 30 is 15. We get that. But another thing that you could do is just multiply both sides by 2. And by multiplying both sides by 2, you totally eliminate that fraction, okay? So now you're not dealing with a fraction anymore. Divide both sides by 30, and you'll get the same height. But see, in this example, I didn't have to deal with the fraction. So that would be 10 centimeters. Okay, now I'm looking at what I think is probably the toughest example of the day, which is to say, well, what do we do if we're missing one of the base links? So follow me through on this. Once again, I'll write out the formula, guys. There's nothing wrong with writing out the formula. In fact, it's like making a recipe. You want to write it out so that you see what you have and what you're missing. In this case, they tell me that the area is 40. And that equals 1/2, open parentheses. The first base is b. The second base is 10, and the height here is 5. Now, I gave you these numbers on purpose. Think about what I just did. I multiplied everything by 2. Let's do that for this one. If I multiply the left-hand side by 2, I'll get 80. If I multiply the right-hand side by 2, it basically eliminates that fraction. So I'm left with b plus 10 times 5. Divide both sides by 5. Do not try. You could distribute the 5 if you want. I think it's easier just to divide both sides by 5. And so we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And when we divide both sides by 5, I get 16 equals b plus 10. Subtract both sides, 10 from both sides. B is going to equal 6 centimeters. This is probably the toughest example for most guys because they try to do too much with this parenthesis and what's in here. They try to distribute the 1/2. They try to distribute the 5. Guys, if you just follow my example and multiply both sides by 2 on this line, you'll make life a lot easier for yourself. All right, guys, when we look at the next one, this deals with, in this case, it's a rhombus, so we've got a rhombus and we have a missing diagonal. Now, I don't know which diagonal is 10 centimeters, so I'm just going to draw one in here, and I'm just going to say, hey, that diagonal is 10 centimeters. And to be honest with you, you don't really need a picture for this one. write out the formula. The formula for a rhombus is 1/2 d1 times d2. They give me the area is 82, so that goes over here with area. One of the diagonals is 10, and the other diagonal is missing. That's what I'm looking for. If you multiply both sides by 2, you'll get 164 equals 10 times d2. Divide both sides by 10. 16.4 centimeters equals your missing diagonal. And finally, for the last example of the day, it's a word problem. So it says, what is the length of each of the diagonals of a rhombus if one diagonal is 3 times longer than the other one and the area is 54 centimeters squared? Guys, if they ever give you a word problem, just do a quick sketch right here. Just do a real quick sketch of a rhombus. Doesn't even have to be a perfect sketch. Here we go. And they say the length of one diagonal is 3 times longer than the other one. Well, let's say that this green diagonal is length x. That would make the red diagonal, which is 3 times longer than that, 3x. So if I write out the formula, area equals 1/2 d1 times d2. They tell me the area is 54. The length of d1 is x. The length of d2 is 3x. And now I'm going to solve for this. So 54 equals 1/2 times, well, 3x times x is going to be 3x squared. Multiply both sides by 2. You get 108 equals 3x squared, right? When you multiply this side by 2, you get 108. Multiply this side by 2, that eliminates it. Divide both sides by 3. 36 equals x squared. And then you take the square root of both sides. Now, technically, you get positive or negative 6, but since it's geometry, we're only going to deal with the positive value there. So when it says, what is the length of each diagonal, you don't just stop and say x equals 6. Of course, x is the length of this one here. That is 6. But the red one would be 3 times 6, or 18 centimeters. So if you look at your two diagonals, one is 3 times the length of the other, and 1/2 times 6 times 18 will equal our area. Hope that helps, guys. Have a great day.